Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Caro-Kann Defence. One of my favorite openings to play with black, the favorite out of a lot of players to play with the black pieces against 1e4. And you've got the board in front of you. What does it look like? Well, white plays e4 and black plays c6. Not the typical move, but still you're fighting for the center because you play d5. You support this pawn. Now we will discuss the exchange, which is taking, and the advanced, which is pushing in separate videos. But today we're talking about the classical main line, which goes, the modern line is now knight to d2. The classical line was knight to c3. Knight to d2 gets played, and then black takes the pawn in the center. White takes, and now there are a couple of moves. You've got the traditional main line with bishop to f5, targeting the knight. Knight goes to g3, and then the bishop retreats. And then here there's a few moves that get played. The minority go knight to f3 first, but the main line is h4, h6, now knight to f3, knight to d7, and then h5, bishop to h7, and bishop to d3. And then a trade on d3 like this, and black can play e6, knight f6, queen c7. Those are kind of the moves that you would consider on this. And this is move 10. So a little bit theoretical, but let's go through the logic of it. Alright, so you may know in the advanced variation of the Toll, in the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann, there's something called the Toll variation where white plays this h4 move because they look to trap the bishop. Because if you think about it, the bishop comes out, and sometimes it gets closed out with e6 because you want to develop your dark squared bishop. So h4, g4, f3 and stuff can be used to trap and target the bishop. So when the knight goes here, if you ask yourself, where can this bishop go? Well, all of these squares get it captured. This square makes no sense, this square makes no sense, and this square makes no sense. So the only logical square is to go back to g6. But that leaves you vulnerable because it was the only square. So now h4, h5 traps the bishop. So we play h4. h6 now gives us our bishop a bit of breathing room. So white can develop with knight to f3. And queen c7 can still be played, but you probably want to play knight to d7 first to disallow potentially knight to e5. So knight to d7, disallowing probably the immediate knight to e5. And then now we get h5, forcing the bishop back. And what white argues is that you've developed one piece, potentially a second if you play knight f6 or queen to c7. And they've got a lead in development. They've got both knights out, they've got a pawn in the center, they've got a pawn clamping down on the king side, and they're one move away from castle. So they can castle at any time. Their dark squared bishop is coming out, and they could even go long. So that's what white is arguing. Black is saying, yeah, but I'm quite solid. This pawn can be a weakness. I can target this pawn, and you've got no actual weaknesses. Targets, rather. I've got no weaknesses, you've got no targets, and I can develop in a way where wherever you castle, I could launch an attack. Because if you castle kingside, that's queenside. If you castle kingside, well, that's a weakness. I can remove the knight and start really lambasting the kingside. If you go long, I've just got a5, b5, a4, b4. I've got a ready-made attack. So the fact that I'm a bit slow in development is fine. There's significant compensation. But of course, this is not the only line in this particular variation. After knight takes, either knight from c3 or d2, there is what's called the Karpov, or the this is the Karpov variation with the immediate knight to d7, and you're supporting knight to f3, which is the Tartakower. So the Karpov, you'll get now knight to g5. You might say, what? That doesn't make any sense. It kind of does. So now knight to g to f6 we develop, because at various points you can sacrifice. There are various traps in the Caro-Kann that come where you can target the queen, the bishop comes out, and there are various traps. Let's just put it at that extent. So bishop to d3, developed actively. And now if you sack the knight, you're getting stuff here. e6. Now knight 1 to f3. Bishop to d6. Why aren't we kicking this knight out? You don't need to at the moment. It's not doing anything. If it ever sacrifices, you've got enough to be protected. So it's important you develop your pieces so that they're about to protect your king. Queen to e2, and now h6. We can kick out the knight. You might be worried about sacrifices. They don't work at the moment. Black is more than willing to try, but they don't quite work at the moment. Knight takes e6, just for your information, instead of, let's say, knight to e4. Knight takes e6. You can see the engine. It drops, or it goes up in black's favor to about minus 1.2. F takes e6. You might be worried about, like, queen takes. Well, you've got queen e7 at a bare minimum, and the king's not castled yet. Hope that's good for you. So knight e4. Knight takes e4. If queen takes e4, and then we can just play, c5. You can play knight to f6 if you really want. Queen c7. You've got a couple of moves. And so on and so forth. But there's also, after knight takes e4, Tartakower. This challenges the knight on e4 immediately, and white has to make a decision. So more often than not, you will get takes, and then we take like this. And the Tartakower is actually really nice and dynamic. You get a strong structure on the king side, so your king is always relatively safe, and you can kind of use this pawn to attack on the king side. You get quick development, and you'll be okay. So, like, let's say c3. Well, you might say, what? That's like a waste of a move. You're defending your center because c5 comes with problems and, threats of not allowing you to castle. Bishop to d6, bishop to d3, short castles, queen c2 now threatening the pawn, rook e8 check, knight to e2, and now h5, and you can get going. Now, white's in a little bit of a predicament. The engine always thinks it's about 0.5, which is, whatever you want to make of the engine, it's fine. Whatever you want to make of the engine, it's fine. But yeah, h5, and then this is kind of what you're looking at. You've developed your pieces, you've got a rook on the nice open file, your light squared bishop can come out. You struggle to kind of find places for this knight, but getting it to d7 and then to like b6 or to f6, or sometimes to one of these central squares, all fine, all fine. Sorry, my door opened, just give me a moment. That's weird, but okay. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. And those are kind of the main lines. Remember all the moves in the description down below, so you can copy them and paste them into an engine, and then you can have some fun looking at them. There'll be a bit of general theory about the Caro-Kann. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's one of 3. We're going to do the advanced. We're going to do the advanced and the exchange, and then we might even do another video on gambits or some rubbish that you might face, and hopefully that'll be enjoyable as well. Otherwise, if you got this far in the video, let me know. Let me know. I really do want to know. Not many people get this far, so tell me. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.